second customer today, Contemi Solutions. Contemi is based in our ASEAN region and has a really interesting story to tell. As such, I'd like to welcome Patrick Kelly, Head of SaaS and Software Business, ISV in Southeast Asia, AWS, and also Daniel Thafalen, Executive Director, Global Head of SaaS at Contemi Solutions. Pat and Daniel, I'll pass to you now.
Thank you, Beth and Clayton, for an insightful discussion. Now, let's switch gears and hear from one of our ASEAN customers, Contemi, we work with here in Singapore. Welcome, Daniel. Thanks for joining us today. Could you tell us what your role is and what does Contemi do?
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. So I'm the Executive Director at Contemi, responsible for our global software as a service offering. Contemi, we are a trusted technology partner to insurance, to wealth management and capital markets across the globe. And well, we say technology partner because we should handle the technology solutions so that our customers can focus on their core business. And I also like to say that we're an enabling business partner. So we deliver software that helps our clients improve on their agility, streamline operations, and meet on today's service and experience requirements. We have 11 offices and more than 50 customers from Northern Europe to Southeast Asia down to Australia. And we have 5 development centers across time zones, with the biggest one being in Vietnam. We are backed by P Capital, an expert investor in non-banking financial services. And they have a mantra of profit with purpose. And I think that mantra is something that's also reflected over on us and on our decision to transform to a software as a service provider. Our main deliveries today at Contemi is Nova, our post-trade processing platform, our wealth intelligence platform, or the WIN platform, providing software for asset and wealth management, and Seamless.Insure, our software platform for the insurance market. So that's a brief overview.
Yeah. That's a great introduction, and I love the mantra. It's really really resonates with the kind of world we're living in today. Touching on that piece, companies across all industries, as we know today, they need to keep innovating, need to stay relevant for their customers. Can you kind of tell us what's happening in the insurance and wealth management industry, where you're a leader, that really motivated Contemi to take that path to SaaS that you talked about?
Yeah, I think there was probably several elements, but I'd like to put it into my own reflections. So when I joined Contemi about almost 2 years ago now, I started to talk to both existing clients and potential clients. And I quickly realized that the cost related to financial software was quite high. Processes were a bit complicated, and so started to think, okay, how can we do something with that? Take 2 examples that I discovered. That's from insurance, product building, and young companies or more startup companies. So on the product building, the process with one of our clients was that their product experts would fill out a template, we would have workshops, and we would build the products for them. It is much easier to give them the tools to build and change these products. If it's a smaller change they need to do, it's quite easy for them to do it themselves if they have the right tools. Hence, we needed a system that had self-service capabilities and no-code development. And then on the other examples on perhaps smaller or younger companies, some of the potential I spoke to there, they worked in Excels or had access to quite outdated systems. And they informed me that even though some of the vendors said that they supported startups or young companies, they minimum had to pay like $200,000 for just the first year and get started, which of course would eat quite much of their capital. Hence, we also needed a system that was cost efficient and could support both young and more established players. And then we also, so on the company level, we started to read up on industry reports, of course, and do our own surveys, and found that within insurance, so insurers and MGAs had a challenge on costly and incoherent system, analytics and reporting, on both customer and user experience, and of course also time to market. So then we got some input that what they needed was something that was fast, flexible, cost efficient, and seamless, hence the name of the platform, Seamless. So that then became the pillars of our development of Seamless, which now is an end-to-end modular insurance platform. It's delivered through AWS and built on a microservice architecture. So basically that means that our clients can turn on and off the features for their business needs. So they don't need to have a lot of stuff that they don't need, and they can easily expand up with other stuff or turn off features. So Seamless today. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'd say that's a really interesting part, because especially the two cohorts of customers you talked about, like more established ones and newer type of customers, and we're kind of seeing that trend. We did you talked about analyst reports with Forrester, building SaaS on AWS, and out of all the business decision makers that were surveyed, like 57% of them said SaaS was the most important, because it's the easiest way for them to get started and to run their business. Because I think that's a really crucial part, and you kind of touched on it there. How's that then playing out across like different geographies, those different trends you talked about? And then you mentioned about Seamless. How is Seamless like helping you differentiate in some of these markets?
Yeah, so we do of course see that there are local variations of needs in the different geographies. So example being type of products, or the sales and communication channels used, or distribution channels. However, we also see that there's a high appetite for our type of solutions across geographies, and also a software as a service offering. What is also common across the geographies is that many providers also claim that they have a lot of the buzzwords. So of course we all use the buzzwords that makes us look good. So be that software as a service, automation, self-service, omni-channel, microservice, or no code. So you have all these buzzwords, which looks good. And so that is one of the reasons why when I talk to new clients, I recommend also the PPT framework, or I normally call it PTP, basically people, technology, process. And in that order, because you need to have the right people in place so that you can select the right technology partner. Because if you build together with AWS, you can have a lot of the buzzwords built into the platform, but then as a client, you need to also be able to spot which of the platforms are able to provide us with the business needs that we need.
Got it. Yeah, super interesting. I think what we've seen, like for adoption in Asia Pacific, SaaS has like grown super fast in some industries, and the growth rate is over 100% year over year in adoption. FSI, obviously, in the space you're in, FinTechs, digital banking. I think APAC's going to be a bit of a hub for digital banking there. Industry 4.0, I think, is kind of picking up now in some markets. And we're also seeing a lot of the governments now have decided, can we kind of shift to digital and online? And is there better way that they can provide services for citizens by using kind of SaaS applications? Kind of shifting in a bit there where you talked about PTP, I really like that framework. And I think, as we know, the old business adage goes, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So at Amazon, we're really guided by our leadership principles. They really inform our culture of innovation and mission to be the world's most customer-centric company. So at Contemi, what role does culture play in that PTP framework, and how has the organization changed, or how are you changing with SaaS?
Yeah, well, a SaaS transformation normally takes time. I think that's important to remember. It's not, as you also mentioned, it's not just a technology process. It's a cultural and it's a maturation process. And what we've seen is that that's both related to how we should solve the challenges for our clients. That is different if you develop something bespoke versus more software as a service, or that we are now a service provider, not just a software provider where we can install something locally. And of course, the focus internally on customer success, which we've also seen that's something that we've always, of course, had a focus on our clients. But when you go more software as a service, you get that automatically as a push, and you need to push that through in the organization. And so is, of course, a lot of ways you can also organize in a SaaS transformation. And I've seen quite many different variations. What we actually did was that we created a new software as a service unit and a new role for me, so head of global SaaS. And then we started, well, basically we'll then start to pull more and more of our offerings over to a software as a service model. And within that software as a service unit, I've hired specific sales and customer success resources, but our development and our consultancy, we have that still in our operational organization, but then with dedicated resources specific for software as a service. So meaning that they're still within the product department, but they work directly for software as a service. And we have then structured the different development teams as autonomous teams with responsibility for their specific domains and the microservices, so that they actually can then take ownership and follow through on their responsibility. And at one point, the unit that I have now will disappear, because then there won't be a need for a SaaS unit. Everything will be software as a service. That's what we're looking. But it's quite interesting to look at how the cultural and how everything changes within an organization. It's important to remember that it takes time, but if you're able also to sit back and relax and try to think over the development, it's quite cool also to see.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great way of thinking about the way you've set up those different units, and the way you're thinking about you're going to basically cannibalize the team. You've built the org, because that becomes the org blueprint over time. That's really awesome. You talked a bit about the different teams there, because you got product teams, you'll have marketing, you'll market a product, you want to sell the product, and then you want to deliver the product. How has that collaboration changed across teams over time?
Yeah, I would say that the collaboration now is more than it was before. So it's more, it's better processes and more communication now. So we haven't, well, it would be good to come with some revolutionary thoughts here, but we haven't done that. But we have now more standardized processes for product input from clients, from sales, from customer success. We also use our own offering internally so that we can also provide feedback directly in the solution. But we've set up their standard process to actually give input to product, and then our product team has a prioritization matrix so that they can implement this both in terms of looking at new sales, the potential customer success and the increased value from our customers. So they have a matrix that they can use there. And then, of course, we have regular meetings, both to give input from sales and customer success, but also to get feedback from product on what have we now delivered and what are we planning going forward, because that's quite important when you go out to speak with new clients, to know what's coming, but also that you're updated on what your existing customers actually have and what they're going to get, so that you can have that dialogue with them, and you can, well, it might not be a feature that they use today, but it could be that can create value for them. So you can then give that info to them. I think it's quite important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think it's obviously things will evolve over time from how you're going to measure success. Any kind of key changes to your goals or your KPIs of how you kind of run the business?
Yes, I think our current goals and KPIs are quite reflected in that we're on the software as a service transformation. So we have now specific goals that's related to customer success. So yes, CSAT and NPS scores. That is, of course, it's been important before, but now collecting that data is even more important because we also now have it as a specific KPI. And then also we haven't finished this yet, but we're working on a customer value framework where we can get all the input, both in terms of the NPS score, but also on their usage of the solution, so that we can, or there's been a sudden drop in usage, or they've, yeah, it could be other things as well. They've started to use a new functionality. So trying to build out that customer value framework and have a customer value score on it. And then we've now, since we are a software as a service provider, we also have KPIs on documentation and standard processes. So that we need to develop that. We are now a service provider, so we need to have build up that capability internally, but also provide documentation to our customers. And then in terms of more financial goals, we moved more over to NRR, so net revenue retention. And I like that because you will have some churn. There might be a customer that is acquired or is not a good fit, or they are not using this functionality anymore. And that will also be the case. But then instead of focusing on that churn, you could focus on what more value you can generate for the customer, and then potentially increase the revenue. So I like that net revenue retention. And also on sales, we've gone more over to LTV, lifetime value. Since it's a software as a service model, you won't get that upfront license. So changing your sales KPIs is also important.
Yeah, super important. It'll drive the right behavior in the field for sure. How the sales teams then go talk to the customer. Yeah, super insightful. Yeah, we've also, I think, in the same Forrester report, based on we interviewed about 5 of our SaaS partners, and time to value, key metric of how they work with cloud providers. Can they leverage AWS to get like returns on it? And we've seen kind of an average of a payback within about 18 months, and the ROI was about 70% over 3 years that they'd seen. So kind of dovetailing into our partnership. So, Contemi started with our SaaS Factory program a while back. Really helps build like a cloud native insurance as a service product, your seamless platform. What was your experience from working with our team, and what are the kind of results you've had today?
Yeah, well, I can. That's something that I gladly can put out there, that I will happily recommend the SaaS Factory program. And basically, I could say that because we've had good experience, but also results from the program. So Seamless is now approved by AWS. So we have followed the well-architectured architecture framework and passed the FDR review. And in that process, we've gotten a lot of support from AWS. Specifically on the technical side, I would highlight the support we've gotten on multi-tenancy, on authentication, and on security, which was quite valuable input that we got. On the business side, we've also gotten a lot of support on both how, on the internal transformation, on marketing, and also pricing and packaging. And one of the things that I really liked was the working backwards methodology. So we did some workshops with AWS, and we tried to apply the working backwards methodology. And then we've also run that after, so without AWS, but internally. And we also included, of course, the developers in that. And when I then got feedback from one of the developers after the workshop that this is something we should have in our standard process, I was like, yes, now we've done something correct.
Nice.
And also, yeah, just to mention on that, because in a SaaS transformation, you will probably get quite busy. And I like the follow-up from AWS.
Okay, I think we're coming up on time. So just lastly, Daniel, any pearls of wisdom for success you want to give advice to any companies who are thinking about this journey to SaaS?
Well, yeah, pearls of wisdom. I think perhaps the most important part is don't be afraid to ask for input and support. Talk to experts, talk to companies who have taken the journey already. And remember that you can get a lot of support and guidance from AWS and the SaaS factory as well. So there I feel also that the more you ask, the more you'll get. And I'm not sure about their internal KPIs, but I feel also that they're measured on how much support are we giving them. So that's of course something you should use. And then of course, remember when you go for a software as a service transformation, you will do some wrong assumptions. And that's natural, but correct as you go, and make sure you have a team and a board behind you that provides support and understands where you're going. So do that prep work before.
Awesome. It's super insightful. I think I said I grew up with, you don't ask, you don't get. So you just keep asking us, and we'll be supporting you on this journey. Okay, great. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Contemi, for your time, and open up the forum for the Q&A.